Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Danish on the home side and half Dutch on the away side. Both of these breweries have featured on the channel before, albeit the Danish one has featured a lot more often than the Dutch one has. The Dutch one I only introduced you to for the first time very recently, but both of these breweries carry a very good reputation and I'm very curious to see what they can produce when they come together. And this is a beer style that you don't see all that many of anymore these days. So for this review then, as I say, for the home brewery we are going to cross the Øresund and go to Copenhagen in Denmark once again, and we're going to have a look at yet another beer from Dry and Bitter Brewing Company, and this one is called the Flotation Station. It's a white IPA coming in at 6.7% ABV, and it's brewed in collaboration with Brouwerij De Moersleutel, who come from Halo, just to the south of Alkmaar in Noord-Holland down in the Netherlands. So yeah, like I said, this one is a white IPA. That's a style of beer that you just never really see anymore. I mean, I think the white IPA evolved initially out of the American wheat ale, and then now these days, of course, you've got the New England hazy IPAs, which usually have quite a bit of wheat in them, along with oats and things. So I think that is the main reason why you don't see white IPAs anymore, because essentially they are just wheat IPAs as far as I'm led to understand. If I've got that wrong, of course, do let me know in the comments section below, but yeah, I believe that is the main reason why you don't see too many white IPAs anymore. But yeah, like I say, both of these breweries carry a very good reputation. De Moersleutel, of course, are mainly known for their big imperial stouts, their big sweet pastry stouts kind of thing, whereas Dry and Bitter are more known for the kind of hazy New England IPAs and stuff like this, along with some sours these days as well, although I have had some very nice stouts from these guys in the past too. But yeah, as I say, very curious to see how this one turns out. 6.7% white IPA, something you don't see too often these days, and I know that both of these breweries are pretty damn good as well. So since this beer is half Dutch as well, a big shout out to my friends in the Dutch Beer Collective. That is Thomas Hugendam, Thomas Opent, we've got Remy, who is Remy Van den Doep, who is Beer Geek Holland, and then we've got Herben Kaspers, who is Dutch Beer Geek, and of course there is a few other Dutch beer tubers down there as well. There's Beeromaniac as well, who's Simon, Beeromaniac, who's got some very nice videos as well. Most of them are reviewing beers in Dutch, but if you are a Dutch speaker, then I recommend you check out their channels if you haven't already. Very nice guys, and you will see them on Hangouts and things like that with me every so often as well. So yeah, do make sure you check out those guys, but let's see how we get on with this beer then. I'm very curious to see how this one turns out. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Dry and Bitter Brewing Company and from Brouwerij De Moersleutel. No doubt you will see some more from both of these breweries at some point in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is that happens to take your fancy. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers that I've reviewed for you, and another one for all the Dutch beers. This one will appear in both of those because it is dual nationality, and those lists are being added to whenever I get the opportunity. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you guys show the channel is massively appreciated. So anyway, let's go on and get on with the history section of this video then. So on to Dry and Bitter Brewery, since these guys are the home brewery in this case. So Dry and Bitter Brewery were founded back in 2015 by the owners of the Fermentoren Bar. This is Soren Parker Wagner and Jay Pollard, and it was a continuation of the Crooked Moon brewing brand that they had started, although you don't see any of these beers anymore as far as I gather. But they were also involved in founding Ølkollektivet, which is a collective brewing space you'll find in Gørløse, and they started this up with a few other guys as well who have also founded their own companies. And this brewery, of course, was the former brewery of Stronzo, who unfortunately went out of business after an infection. But the brewery brew their beers there along with Gamma Brewing and Ulsnedkeren. Bad Seed, Black Rooster and Ghost Brewing have also brewed their beers for periods of time there before going on and getting their own breweries. But in addition to the Copenhagen Fermentoren bar, they've also got another bar in Aarhus as well, and both of these bars have beers that are brewed exclusively for them. But today they're brewing around 200,000 litres of beer per year, and they host their own festival which is called Fermentoren's Flying Circus as well. So hopefully I can go and check that out sometime. I think that would be very interesting. But as of June 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 95 different kinds of beer, and they're also producing a few different types of sour beers now as well, because for a long time it was mainly different types of IPAs. I mean, the first beer that I ever tried from Dry and Bitter, if I remember correctly, I think it was the, I want to say, was it the Hobo Chick? Or was it the Hop Sweat? Though I'm sure the very first one I tried from Dry and Bitter was a West Coast IPA. So you know, those beers were very, very nice back in the day, and the New England IPAs that you get from them these days are also really pretty damn good as well. I think you know, I think probably my favourite one that I've had from them in recent times was the Hey Femme, the Dry and Bitter Hey Femme was just a beautiful, beautiful beer. The one that they brewed to celebrate their 5th anniversary, a kind of New England triple IPA. That's the best beer, I think, that I've had from these guys so far. But yeah, a very, very well respected brewery in the Danish craft beer scene these days, and they are getting more and more well known overseas as well. I know that the English guys have reviewed a good number of the beers, and I think the Dutch guys that I mentioned before have been able to get a hold of some Dry and Bitter beers as well. So one of the Danish breweries that I really, really recommend that you check out. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Dry and Bitter Brewing Company for the moment. As I say, one of my favourite Danish craft breweries. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. The two Fermentorum bars, the Copenhagen and the Aarhus one, do have their own feeds as well that you can check out. And of course, if you want to learn more about those 95 different beers, you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about those. So yeah, let's move down to the Netherlands then and talk about the Dutch side of this beer then. So as I mentioned to you earlier, Brouwerij De Moersleutel are based in Heilo, just to the south of Alkmaar. And the brewery was founded back in 2016 by the four Zomerdag brothers. This is Pim, Tom, Rob and Max. And apparently they developed a love of brewing from their parents, Sjaak and Marguerite, who had a brewery called Vriendenbier. So they'd started brewing in their kitchen, and then they moved into a brewery space officially in 2012. But the brewery is now based in the former GGZ kitchens where Vriendenbier started out, and this became vacant after its owners just didn't get any customers anymore, basically. So this whole kind of large kitchen space that they're based in now is actually home to a cheese factory, a carpenter's and an electrician's as well. But in April 2017 the two breweries were merged together to become one company. They added two new 2,000 litre brew kettles, and that year they also acquired a number of different barrels for their barrel aging programme as well, and that's constantly been expanded over the years too. But this brewery tend to focus on higher ABV beers, and until 2018 they'd only produced imperial stouts, and over the course of 2019 they began to add some IPAs and some sour beers into that as well. I think they've produced a few barley wines, if I remember correctly, and they've also produced a smoked beer, I think, at one point as well. So that is one that I would really, really love to try. But as of June 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 80 different beers, and there's also 12 beers available from this brewery under the Vriendenbier brand, which tended to be a mix of, I think, traditional Belgian styles of beer. I'm sure there was one or two German things in there as well, and there was, I think, a couple of stouts and things too. So there was a few American English style beers in there as well, actually. So yeah, hopefully I can try one or two of the Vriendenbier things at some point in the future. But yeah, when I get down to the Netherlands, hopefully later in the year, and meet all the Dutch beer tubers as well, then hopefully we can get a few more Dutch beer reviews for you on the channel as well. I first encountered the Dutch craft beer scene back in like 2014, and the stuff there, obviously it was just starting to kind of kick off there, but there were some very, very nice breweries there back in the day as well. So yeah, there is a very, very good thriving Dutch craft beer scene. So as I say, make sure you check out the guys, Thomas Opent, you know, Dutch Beer Geek Holland, Beeromaniac, and there are various other guys doing beer tubing down there as well, from what I understand. So yeah, that's all you need to know about Brouwerij De Moersleutel. The name of the brewery translates into English as the Wrench, so basically it is the Wrench Brewery, and that's after the father's background of being an engineer, from what I understand. I think one of the brothers is also an engineer as well. So yeah, a really nice brewery, this one. I think it's definitely one that I would love to go and visit, and maybe I can get an interview with them at some point as well. I know that Remy van den Doep from Beer Geek Holland, he is he was born in Alkmaar actually, so this is his hometown. Maybe we can set something up with him and see how that works out. But yeah, if you want to learn more about Brouwerij De Moersleutel, check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages again to learn more about this brewery too. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So this one I think will be very, very interesting. The artwork on this of course is awesome from Dry and Bitter. It's, you know, very kind of retro and sort of futuristic. It looks like one of these very old kind of computer graphic things. The artwork that you get on these Dry and Bitter beers I think is very distinctive and very, very nice. You know, to be honest, when it comes to art and things like that, I'm pretty much illiterate. I was more of a music man myself, but there you can see the two brewery symbols, Dry and Bitter and Brouwerij De Moersleutel, the Flotation Station White IPA, 6.7% ABV. It says here, we had the great pleasure of welcoming our friends from Brouwerij De Moersleutel to Gorloza, and we cranked out a fresh, sparkling new beer. This white IPA leans heavy on the wheat to play with the mouthfeel, all the while maintaining that bitterness we both love. Galaxy, Equinox, Citra and YET rise high in the dry hop, floating on waves of grain. So yeah, this one I think should be really nice. It does say here that the containants, the ingredients, it has it says havre and feta, so it's like it does have oats in it, this one as well. So I'm not sure if it's just, you know, it's basically just a wheat heavy New England IPA maybe, because I'm sure the original white IPAs didn't have oats in them. The oats was the whole thing that changed the style into the New England IPA as far as I can remember. But do let me know if you guys know better than that in the comment section below, because I think that's one of these hazy areas. You know, when, you know, the American wheat ale evolved, then you had the white IPAs started to come out, and now you've got the whole New England IPA thing as well. So where are the, you know, a lot of the borders in beer styles are very hazy of course, but you know, where exactly did the white IPA die and the New England IPA start? I'm not sure about that one. It's an interesting thing to talk about. But yeah, if you do have any other specifically white IPA recommendations as well, since this is a style you don't see too often, let me know those in the comment section as well. That would be really interesting to review a few of those for you too. But yeah, 6.7% white IPA this one. Let's get it out and we will get on with the tasting then. So Galaxy, of course, as we know, is a very high alpha acid Australian hop, usually kind of passion fruity, quite a pungent passion fruit from what I remember. Citra is one that we know quite well as well, you know, mangoes, a lot of little kind of tropical fruit complexities. Equinox, another American hop, along with Citra, is known for being quite, you know, quite limey more than anything else. And of course the YET is a lovely New Zealand hop, and from what I remember, it's quite orangey, sort of tangerine orangey, but it's also got a little bit of a kind of limey character to it as well. So yeah, I will say when you open up the can, you do get a good hint of lime out of this, and if you've got two hops that are quite heavy in the lime, that is not surprising. So yeah, you will notice a good bit of a limey character just coming off this one, and I'm about 50 centimetres or so away from the beer at the moment, so you know, that's not overly, it's you know, I'm not right in on it, but you do get a good bit of a citrusy, zesty quality out of this one. But yeah, as you can see with this beer, it's poured a lovely kind of, this one's kind of in the middle of the whole yellow and the yellow and orange side of thing. I would say that this actually looks, it's the same kind of colour as like a sort of mango juice, to be honest with you, somewhere between a mango and a pineapple juice. So yeah, quite a light, almost pale yellow colour this one. If I shine the light through it, it does maintain its kind of paleness, but it's definitely not the palest of New England IPAs that I've come across. I think the oat content must have something to do with that as well, but of course when you're using the things that usually determine the colour of your beer, to a degree it will be the yeast, I think, as well. The yeast can determine it, but mainly it's the different types of malts that you use and also how long the boil is. Those are the main things that determine the actual colour of your beer, because the longer you boil it, of course, the more caramelisation of sugars you get, and that means that the beer tends to go to a more darker colour, a higher EBC rating. So yeah, as you could see with this beer, when we poured it, it had about a half finger of a frothy white head. I think it's got more and more frothy as we've just left it. I think it started out quite bumpy. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there, but you know, overall it does look pretty damn nice, and it's not overly surprising for a wheat IPA, to be honest with you. Any wheat beer you do expect to be hazy, and the oats are only going to kind of add to that effect. The other thing that will affect it, of course, is the alcohol content. As you go up and up and up, your beers are gradually going to get more hazy because there are more oats and more there is more wheat in there as well. So yeah, if I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see there is a good degree of haze to this one, but like I say, not unexpected for a primarily wheat-based beer. So yeah, it looks the part. Nothing that's really surprising about the appearance of this one. Let's check out the aroma and just see how we get on then. Ooh, it does smell really nice. I will say straight away though, it doesn't smell too dissimilar to a New England IPA. You can tell that it's a bit more wheaty leaning because it does smell a little bit more kind of fluffy and bready rather than being kind of smooth and creamy. Although that said, when you think about the different breweries that do these styles, the American ones at least, you know, Treehouse always tend to lean towards the kind of creamy side of things, whereas you've got the likes of Trillium who lean towards the wheaty side of things. You can tell straight away that this one, it does lean more towards that wheaty side of things, but you do get the creamy oats out of it as well. It really does not smell overly different from some of the other New England IPAs that I've had in the past, especially from Dry and Bitter. I've not had an IPA yet from De Moersleutel, so can't really say too much about that. But yeah, the aroma of this, I think, is very, very nice. The hops are coming out nicely in that as well, and it is quite citrusy and zesty. That's the other thing I'll say about this one. So straight away when you smell this beer, as I said, you get a nice kind of white bready kind of thickness to it. You can smell the wheat has a little bit of a kind of almost bitiness to it. It's got just a little bit of a kind of astringency to it almost. You really feel it, can smell the wheat coming out of this beer quite a little bit actually, so I like that about this one. I do like that it's got a little bit more of that kind of wheaty character to it. You definitely smell a bit of the oats. You are getting a bit of a kind of there is a very slight sort of brown sugary kind of almost Werther's Original type note coming out of this, and I have noticed with Dry and Bitter recently that seems to be becoming a bit of a theme of their IPAs. They do seem to be adding in a little bit more of that kind of sort of Werther's Original brown sugary type thing, so you do get that out. This one, in fairness, it does remind me a little bit of the Hey Femme, the way that the the malt base is going together. So yeah, it's not too dissimilar from what I remember of Hey Femme, although you know that beer was that like 11-12%? That was a big monster of a thing, so a hell of a lot higher in alcohol than this one is at 6.7%, but it really does have a kind of similar malty base to it as well. So it's not, as I say, the aroma of this one doesn't resemble like it really doesn't resemble an old, what I would have remembered a wheat IPA being recently. It is more just like a slightly wheat heavy New England IPA, in fairness, so I would definitely say that about it. But yeah, the malt base is pretty nice, but it reminds me quite a bit of the Hey Femme from that I've had from Dry and Bitter before, their 5th anniversary beer. But yeah, the malt base comes out really nicely, like I've said. On the hoppy side of things, you do get a little touch of earthiness out of this one. You do get some very nice kind of floral aromatic notes out of the beer. All of these hops are above 10% alpha acid, so you are obviously going to get a nice kind of floral aromaticity out of the beer. I'm trying to remember, Citra I think is around 13, I'm sure Galaxy can be between 14 and 16, and Equinaut I think is around the kind of 14% mark as well. Waiiti, I'm actually not sure. Some of these New Zealand hops I think can be kind of deceptively low in terms of their alpha acid, like, you know, some of the ones like Racal and things they've got beautiful hop flavours, but some of the New Zealand ones are deceptively low in terms of their alpha acid. So I can't remember how how big Racal is in that case. But I will say you do get a nice kind of floral aromaticity out of this one. It does have a little bit of a spicy note to it. There's not really a dankness, like a piney dankness to this beer in my mind. But you do have a nice little bit of kind of grassy note to it as well. On the fruity side of the beer, you've got kind of everything you would expect from it, to be honest with you. So there is a bit of a darker passion fruit in there, although I don't think that takes centre stage. There's some nice mangoes, and there is a bit of that kind of softer, tropically apricot-y type thing in there, the sort of papaya apricot-y note, and I think that will mainly be coming from the Citra, but of course the Waiiti, you know, Waiiti I don't think is going to contribute too much to that. I'm surprised at those kind of softer tropical notes being in there. Of course, the other thing that could be would be from the yeast as well, actually, because I don't know if they would have used a slightly different yeast for this one, because it's a wheat leaning IPA, and you do get some interesting kind of fruity notes from the likes of Hefeweizen yeasts, for example. So that's another kind of factor that we have to consider here. But yeah, some nice kind of slightly stronger passion fruit, juicy mangoes from the Citra, but you do have a surprising amount of like a light, a slightly lighter kind of a slightly lighter papaya, apricot-y kind of note coming out of this one as well. So yeah, I like that about this beer, I have to say, but you do get a hell of a lot of lime out of it, I have to say. It's quite a juicy lime as well. It's not too pungent, but yeah, there is a nice juicy limey note to this one, kind of right at the front of the nose, and it kind of the limey notes you can feel sort of mixing in with the kind of grassy side of the beer. You've almost got a little bit of that kind of grassy, lemony, citricy kind of quality coming out of this one as well. But overall, the aroma of this one comes out very, very nicely, I have to say. Not what I expected. It does come across like a kind of smaller version of the Hey Femme. It really doesn't smell overly different from a New England IPA for me, but I think it is going to be pretty damn nice, actually. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the Flotation Station, a white IPA. It's 6.7% ABV from Dry and Bitter Brewing Company in Gorløse, just to the north of Denmark, brewed in collaboration with De Moersleutel, who come from Heeloo, just to the south of Alkmaar in Noord-Holland down in the Netherlands. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål. That's nice. I like this one. It actually, when I think about it, it comes across as a very, it really comes across as being almost a bit crisp, to be honest with you. It's really got more of a kind of crisp mouthfeel compared to some of the other dry and bitters that I've had before. Obviously, most of the beers I've had from dry and bitter in recent times have been, the big kind of creamy, oaty kind of leaning New England IPAs, but this one's very, very light and drinkable and almost just quite crisp, to be honest with you. So I don't know if what they've done with this one is they've taken some of the oats out of it to keep the creaminess down, or whether it has the kind of regular amount of oats in it but they've just upped the wheat. I'm not sure exactly what they would have done with this one compared to other ones, but to me it feels a lot less creamy and a lot more like a kind of straight IPA. I mean, it actually reminds me to a degree of some of the ones that we used to have, and this was still when we were in the days of the West Coast. To a degree, this beer reminds me of when you used to get the beers that were simply kind of pale malt and they just blasted them with hops. It kind of reminds me of this a little bit, except the base isn't pale malt, it's wheat malt. It really kind of reminds me of some of these old school ones, and of course you do have a little bit of haziness to it because of that oat content it has now. So this one, it's almost kind of like, it reminds me of those old West Coast ones, those sort of West Coast pale ales, if you can call them that. It reminds me of those where the malt base is just not complex at all. The focus is on the combination of the hops. It really reminds me of some of the things like that, because you don't get so much of the sweetness out of this one in the middle of the palate as well. It almost reminds me a little bit of some of these kind of session IPAs that you get these days as well. So that's another interesting point about this. So yeah, I like how that, I do like how this one goes together, actually. It is pretty solid. It reminds me, actually, when I think about it, it reminds me of the Neblina that I had recently from Remalöv Gårdsbryggeri here in Skåne, in the south of Sweden. It really reminds me a lot of that. If I was blind tasting this, I really think I would reckon this was a session IPA. Because just the malt base feels so light, actually. I mean, obviously if it's a West Coaster you'll get a bit more kind of sweetness and biscuitiness out of it, right enough, but then if it's a New England sort of hazy IPA, you do just expect it to be a bit kind of smoother and less crispness. I would never guess that this was supposed to be a white IPA. I would guess this was a kind of lower ABV session type beer, this one. So yeah, that's an interesting point I feel I need to make about this one. I would think this was a session IPA if I was blind tasting it. I would get the ABV of this one completely wrong. I would think this was like a 4.5-5% session IPA. That would be my That would probably be my blind taste of it. And the main basis for that would just be how kind of light and sort of crisp the mouthfeel is, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's an interesting point to make about this one. Let's try and break the flavour down a little bit more then. So straight away with this beer, you can feel a little bit of that pale malty base just blanket in the middle of your palate, but if you go to the middle third of your tongue and the back third of your tongue, the back third of your tongue actually does have a good bit of the wheaty bitiness out of it. It's almost got a little bit of a kind of peppery spice or something, to be honest with you as well. You can feel just a slight spiciness coming out of this beer the further you go into the aftertaste. But this, in the middle third of your palate, if you go to the kind of back half of that, you can feel some of the smoothness of the wheat, and you do get that slightly kind of pungency, astringency flavour that you can get from wheat as well. But as you go further forward, as you gradually move further forward in that middle third of your tongue, it starts to become more kind of lighter and pale malty, if that makes sense. So it's thicker and wheaty towards the back, and then just gradually more pale malty and kind of crisper, if that makes sense. In the very centre of your palate though, you do get a wee bit of you can detect the booziness of this one. It doesn't really have like a sort of biscuity sweetness to it, it's just got that very kind of dark, alcohol-y type flavour to it, to be honest with you. I thought it was going to have a little bit of a, you know, that kind of Werther's Originally, almost butterscotchy type flavour to it in the middle of the palate. But it really doesn't, it is very much like a kind of crisp, pale malty, wheat malty, IPA, this one. As I say, it really reminds me a lot of some of these just session IPAs that I've had recently. So yeah. In fairness, I think after taking another few sips of it, I've got to revise that statement I said where there's not really a sweetness in the middle of the palate. I think when you take a bigger gulp of it, it does have a wee bit of a kind of slightly biscuity, McVitie's digestive type kind of sweetness to it as well. So that's an interesting point to make about this beer in my mind. So I like that about this one. I do like how that goes together. The aroma of this, the flavour of this one, the malt base, I think does go together quite well for me. I like it, but it's a lot, you know, it's just the main difference between this one and some of the other New Englands that I've had. It really is a hell of a lot crisper and reminds me a lot of the sort of session New England IPAs, in fairness. So yeah, I like how this one goes together. I do like how this beer kind of goes together in terms of its malty side of things. On the hoppy side of the beer then, the back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little touch of earthiness there, but very quickly that fades away and you get a good bit of floral aromaticity pushing its way to the fore on this one. Nice and floral and slightly spicy on the front corners of the palate. Round the very front curve of the tongue, it is a little bit lighter and grassy, and then behind the front curve of the palate, in that front third of the tongue, that's where you get the nice kind of oily bubble, where the juicy, fruity esters push their way out of the beer. So if you go towards the back of that, you've got a nice kind of passion fruity note to it. Yeah, there is a wee bit of that darker kind of passion fruity note there, but it very quickly evolves to be more mango-like as you come further forward. There are a few wee elements of softer tropical fruits there, but I think there's kind of slightly stronger flavours of the mango and the passion fruit kind of linger there. But then as you reach the kind of front part of the palate, you do get, just on that kind of front edge almost, you get a wee sort of bubbly, just a wee sort of kind of circle, if you like, where there's a bit of an oily orange, which will be from the Waiiti in there. But then as you reach the kind of edge of the tongue, just before the edge of the tongue, you've got that citrusy, zesty kind of thing from the grassiness, but you also have a really nice, you've also got that kind of limey, juicy quality to it as well. So I really like how that side of the beer all goes together. I think this one's really nicely done, so it gets a big thumbs up from me, I have to say. Yeah, I do like how that side of the beer goes together. I think the hops kind of suit it quite nicely. You've got a really nice juiciness to the beer. Like I say, you've got those darker tropical fruit notes, the passion fruit a little bit. The mango's not too dark right enough, but then you've got it contrasted by a bit of a more citrusy orange and a more kind of slightly like you know, kind of zesty sort of lime sort of thing too. So yeah, the way that everything goes together in this one is quite nice. As I say, my impression that I had of this one at the start, that I would mistake this in a blind tasting for like a kind of session IPA. I would stick with that. That observation I made is, I think, pretty spot on, to be honest with you. I would think, tasting this, that it was a session IPA. It's really not got so, you really don't get so much of the oaty flavours in this one, to be honest with you, or the creaminess, the mouthfeel that the oats had. So yeah, it really, for me, I find this beer to be very kind of crisp, to be honest with you. It's almost, you know, obviously you think of a Hefeweizen, and a Hefeweizen is quite a big, kind of smooth and but almost at the same time quite bitey beer. So yeah, you do get the bitiness out of this one towards the back of the palate, but at the same time I just really find this beer a lot crisper than the usually creamy New England IPAs. So yeah, I don't know if that's the kind of the defining difference between a New England and a white IPA, but yeah, it's an interesting beer to try, this one. I like things like this that do test my palate a little bit. In terms of the mouthfeel then, yeah, I would say that this one, it's kind of mid-bodied. It kind of sits right in the middle of the scale, to be honest with you. Carbonation is quite smooth. There is a slight oily mouthfeel to this one, but otherwise it does feel quite wet and quite clean. I would say that it's, yeah, mid-bodied, quite clean, little bit of crispness to it as well from the malty side of things, the kind of bitiness of the malts and stuff. But yeah, quite a you know, straight middle of the road, mid-bodied beer, little bit of wetness to it, little touch. There is a wee teeny bit of an oiliness to it, in fairness as well. But yeah, middle of the road beer, this one. On the IBUs, what would we say about this one? Yeah, I mean, in terms of IBUs, I think you're just talking about, you know, 30-ish. I think it's your standard sort of New England IPA bitterness. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 40, to be honest with you, because there is, the more and more I drink of it, I do actually start to get, I said there wasn't so much dankness and things like that to it earlier, but I do start to get just a bit of that slightly dank, slightly spicy floral kind of thing coming out of this one. But I mean, overall, I think, yeah, 30 to 40 IBUs in this one, which is pretty standard these days. Malt base, like I say, it's quite crisp at the same time. It's got a little bit of a kind of bitiness to it. There is a wee bit of smoothness and a slight sweetness in the middle of the palate, but I'd say mainly quite a crisp malt base, and the fruitiness comes over as being, you know, slightly juicy and slightly oily as well, actually. So yeah, it's got a nice, as I say, there's a good balance between the kind of citrusy notes more towards the front of the palate and the more kind of tropical notes towards the kind of back of that front third of your tongue as well. But overall, I mean, it's a really interesting beer, this one. Is it the best beer that I've had from Dry and Bitter? I wouldn't say so. It's solid enough, but you know, I think there are a lot better beers to be had from Dry and Bitter. Is it the best IPA that you're going to find from De Moersleutel? I would doubt it, to be honest with you as well. I mean, these guys, they're very good with the Imperial Stouts and things like that. But yeah, I think this is one of the beers that maybe you try for the kind of quirkiness rather than for it being, you know, one of the best beers you're going to have from either of these breweries. So yeah, I mean, I've only got one point of reference from De Moersleutel, the Intergalactic, what was it called? The name of the beer's gone right out of my head, but that was a big Imperial Stout, and that left a very good impression of that brewery. So I don't really have an IPA point of reference for De Moersleutel, but I would guess that some of the IPAs these guys are doing would have to be pretty good if their stouts are at that level. But yeah, for Dry and Bitter, I think this one's not as good as some of the ones that you will get. Hey Femme, of course, sets a very, you know, it raises the bar very, very high for this brewery, and it's a solid enough beer, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with it, but I think there are better IPAs available from Dry and Bitter in my mind. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Flotation Station, a white IPA, which in some ways isn't really like the old white IPAs. It's a little bit more like a kind of more wheat-leaning New England IPA. And it feels to me as if it's a lot kind of crisper than some of the regular New England IPAs that you're going to find, actually. But it turned out to be a nice solid enough beer, quite similar to a lot of the session New England IPAs that you're finding these days, in my opinion. So yeah, if that sounds like your thing, have a go at it and see what you think as well. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one, was the Flotation Station, a white IPA at 6.7%, brewed by Dry and Bitter Brewing Company in Gurlosa, just to the north of Copenhagen, over in Denmark, and then brewed in collaboration with Brouwerij De Moersleutel, who are from Halo, just to the south of Alkmaar, Noord-Holland, down in the Netherlands. I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on this beer. Let me know your own thoughts on it in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Dry and Bitter and from De Moersleutel. No doubt we will return to both of these breweries in the near future. I thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Until the next time, Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanja at school, do give me some white IPA recommendations as well, and I hope that this is a style we can explore a little bit more. Cheers.